Hello and welcome to another episode of Design Under Influence. Today, we're going to go into the episode two, part two of our AI and submittal series. What we've done is broke the complex process of submittal workflow into three components. And the first component, part one, was already published, and you can go see it. If you haven't, you should probably start with part one. But part one has to do with the intake process. Part two is going to be the submittal review process, which is what we're gonna cover today. And part three, we're gonna close the loop with submittal tracking and resubmittals, updating logs, and things of that sort. So this is how we recommend you approach your workflows in order to help you get a lot more accuracy and save a lot of time on mundane and tasks that are just tedious and are not really what you went to school for. So submittal process is part of it. We definitely preserve human process here, and we call out specific gates within workflow that require human approval. So the architect will still do architecture job. The engineer is still going to do engineer job. What AI is going to do is prep everything that is ahead of this in order for the professional to provide their opinion, their professional review, and then send it on and back to AI so it prepares the correspondence communication, which again, the professional review, amend, change, and then send out. So that's the process. We've developed specific demo documents because we want to go through the process prompt by prompt. We want to show you how we let the AI take step by step, get those human gates in place where we get to approve and tell it to go to the next step. And then at the end of the show, we package it up as a skill, and all of this will be available as a downloadable on getarchit.com, just like the intake process it already is available, which was part one. Boris, anything to add before we jump right in?
No, I think you got everything covered. Let's hop in.
Let's hop in. So Boris spends a lot of time and money on tokens here at ArcIT. And so he's here is going to help us add color and the whys to some of these steps to help you understand how to think about what you were doing and what you're asking AI to do. All right, so let me share my screen and I'll explain what we have.
Hey, Alex, while you're sharing your screen, I guess the question is, we're using the same documents as we used in section one. Are we using any outputs from the first video in the series in this as well?
Yes, good point. So in the first series, we have requested that GC reviews the original submittal and adds their stamp because what we found during the intake process is the stamp was missing. We're presuming at this point of the workflow, we are the architect or engineer that this submittal was routed to. So in the previous section, we had the system identify missing GC stamp. So they have resent it since with their stamp. And now we have routed this to an architect. And now the architect is taking over this workflow to process the submittal. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yep.
All right. Let's review the documents that we're going to work with. So first, we have the door hardware spec. That's the spec that we saw in episode one. Second, we're going to have door schedule. And the third document is the submittal review record. So I should take a pause here. This is the submittal itself. Okay. All right. My first prompt, I have attached all the four files I just mentioned, and I asked my Copilot, Cowork, and I guess it's important to take a pause for just a second here. We are now in Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'm on the Cowork tab, which is agentic work, and I am working prompt by prompt to build a submittal review process for our firm. It's important to point out I'm not doing this in a personal AI tool of any kind. I am an enterprise approved tool that ArcIT, our company, has rolled out for our employees. And so that's what I'm using right now. And I'm not in chat, I'm in Cowork. Okay, so the first prompt, I'm going to attach all the relevant documents and I'm going to ask it to, using attached files, identify the governing review sources and map each review criteria to its exact documentation and location. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm setting up my Copilot to read all the data and save it into a temporary memory file so we can start working through the data. It needs to review all the documents, dissect it, and put together a table. I also wanted to answer a question that you might already have come up as I'm speaking, and that is, well, do I need to attach all these documents every single time? And the answer is this is for the demo purposes. That's what we're doing. But the way that it's going to work in the real world is we're going to wire up all the connectors required in order to go grab that information. For example, if this was resubmitted with GC signature via email, the Copilot will go and grab it from the email and prepare it for you and let you know that it's ready for review. If it's in the Procore, then there'll be another workflow, or if it's in another GC owned or owner specific tool, there'll be a different workflow. So the idea is you wouldn't have to manually attach all these files before you start the workflow. But we're going to do it here for the purpose of the demo and to create a specific skill. Now, we're going to have the skill available for the download. Once you download it, you can adjust it and wire it up to connect to the sources of information. So the intake is automatic. Hopefully that answers that question. So what Copilot did here, it read all the documents and it took the data apart and it put it in the table. So next thing I'm going to ask it to do is compare each submittal hardware item and scheduled opening with the cited specification and door schedule. Use only appears consistent. So I let it know what specifically, how to classify each finding, and I specifically ask it, do not recommend this position yet. Again, I'm going to preempt a question you might already have is like, hey, Alex, are you writing those prompts by hand? That seems pretty involved. And it is, and I'm not. What we've done is we broke down the submittal process on a whiteboard ahead of time, and we split into parts, as I mentioned. But this is a part two, the review process, and then we asked AI to give us prompt by prompt guide in order to achieve our targets. And so that's the first step of the process, which I'm not going through right now. We're going through prepared prompts. And so once this prompt is in, oops, I ran into a problem. It says, I'm sorry, I cannot complete the comparison without reassessing the attached document content in this turn.
Yeah, just a little bit of color on that. So the reason why it did that is because anytime you ask a AI agent to do something, it runs what is called a turn. Basically, in its mind, it's a start to finish completed task. So it made an assumption that what you asked for previously was a completed task, and basically decided that it no longer needed the documents, and it quote unquote disconnected from them, although they still live in the location where you upload it. So anything you use in CoWorks gets uploaded to your OneDrive. So
Mhm.
it's the documents were still in the location, but they were not being able to be accessed anymore. So you had to reauthorize access to them again.
Very interesting. So, how should I have done this particular prompt differently, or should I have?
I don't think it's a matter of doing the prompt differently. It just we have seen from time to time where the model makes an assumption that the turn is complete, and you just have to say on the next one you say proceed with the previous documents. And so I guess it's the previous prompt to this one where you'd say use the same documents and then put stuff in.
So, which is say use the same documents to
Yep.
compare each submittal.
Yep.
I see. Okay, it's good. We all learned something. So anyway, I told it to proceed, and it did. It went ahead and came up with a breakdown for me. So here's the opening slash item label. It labels based on what we asked it to do. Variance appears consistent. Variance not submitted, needs clarification. Those are the ones we asked, those are the labels we asked it to apply. So he went through the submittal and it classified everything. For example, appears consistent. Specs look good, right? But variants, spec required grade 1, lock sets, submittal SL200 is grade 2. So it's flagging some things for you to review. So this is where you start taking a look at this. And what we recommend and what we've done here is ask it to run a second pass for any omitted requirements, and we also add this particular little bit of a statement at the end, right? And it says, add only evidence supported findings. Because we all know sometimes AI wants to be so helpful that it will make stuff up, and we can't let it do that for us. So we're keeping the boundaries clear. And so now on the second pass, these are second pass findings only, and it's not recommending any disposition yet. So there's a little bit more information here. So, for example, hardware schedule content, label variants. Okay, evidence supported findings. Spec requires fire rating and smoke seal requirements in the door by door hardware schedule. Submitted schedule lists opening items finishes, but not those fields. So it's going to give you more information. Now we're going to ask it to draft. Next prompt, we're going to ask it to draft a concise review comment for each variance. Need clarification. We give it specific instructions on what we wanted to do, and then went ahead and did that. So findings and preliminary review comment. Findings, variance, preliminary submitted hardware schedule omits fire rating and smoke seal requirements fields. Revised schedule to include these for each opening, and so on. So it gave us the summary of all the review comments. Next, we're going to ask it to recommend a disposition from the cited findings. And then we are going to stop right here and use our own judgment in order to decide whether AI did it correctly. It made the comparisons and we've double checked everything, or we should revise the recommendations based on our own judgment. Okay, so what it gave us factual comparison, and it gave us a recommended preliminary disposition, which is revise and resubmit. This still requires architect's judgment, whether any non-626 finishes are acceptable, whether substitute grade 2 lock sets could be considered under project procedures, whether clarifications alone is enough for preliminary functions quantities, and then final disposition stamp language and official project record. Next, we confirm that our decision is to revise and resubmit. We agreed with its findings, and now we ask it to preserve the blank original, use only cited findings and the architect supplied disposition, and draft a short transmittal for human review. Do not send anything. So it says, oh, your document is ready. But what it actually prepared for us is the submittal review record, which is interesting, but which is what we needed, but we didn't need it at this particular step. So we made a correction and we said, create resubmittal, address to summit builders, stating the disposition, summarizing the requested corrections, and requesting a corrected package. Okay, so now it went ahead and did two things. It created the resubmittal request, which we have to review, and actually created an email copy so we can copy and paste that into an email and send it on to the summit builders. Now, this can happen automatically as far as creating a draft in your inbox. That way it's less steps. But again, for now, for the purpose of this demo, I just want to show you the capabilities of the system and where to insert human gates. Now, at this point, we're happy with the output. So what we did is we asked it to put it together into a reusable skill. So now AI review process for our company is going to be a skill. First, I ask it to, hey, go ahead and create a skill, but let me review the draft before we package it. So it created a draft of the skill, and I went ahead and approved it, and then it went ahead and created the skill. So now this skill becomes a shareable asset in the organization. And from here on, we all going to go through the process and continually improve this skill until it works flawlessly. So the idea is we work through prompt by prompt, making corrections, reading the output, and making sure the output corresponds to what we need to see at every step of the process. And once we have that, we package that as a skill. Now, between step phase one, two, and three, the whole submittal process, our goal and target is to save at least an hour per each submittal across the board for architects, for CA administrators, and everybody else involved. It's not like we're taking out a position in the company. It's everyone gets the benefit of a lot of this menial work be done by AI so they can apply their judgment and move forward. Our aim is accuracy and consistency throughout the process.
Alex, what are we going to be covering in episode 3?
So, episode three will pick up when the architect approves and issues the response. The log is going to be updated. The contractor revises the submittal. Submittal is received. Changes are compared. Item is closed or repeated. So we're going to close the loop on the whole submittal process from all the way from intake and closing the item or repeating the process.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait.
If you need our help, we are here to help you adopt AI securely in your organization and think through the workflow and hopefully save countless hours and time so you can focus on doing your best work and let AI do all the mundane, all of the admin stuff so you can focus on building beautiful buildings and creating great spaces. See you all next time. Thank you very much for watching.
Bye, everyone.